Hi, welcome to Work in Progress. I'm your host, Dan Araujo. Work in Progress is a show where we talk to local artists that you may not have heard of before. And so today's guest is going to be my friend Hannah Woodsford, who's got a project going on right now, and she's going to tell us a little bit about it. But first off, Hannah, hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. So tell us a little bit about yourself at first, and then we'll get into the project.
Okay. I'm local to Auburn. I was born and raised here. I have my family here. I'm married, and we're in a blended family, and together have 5 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Work full time here and raising my family, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been here your whole life.
Yeah.
Well, I bet you've seen a lot of changes happen in town.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, so you have a book that you're working on right now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah, it's actually going to be a remembrance piece. It's going to be based on the 10 canal and train track deaths that occurred between 2009 and 2015 here locally in Auburn. They died under very tragic circumstances, and the circumstances are sort of what tends to get the attention. So what this piece is going to be about is focusing more on who they were, their lives, not the way that they died.
Okay. Yeah. That's probably not very easy, would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely not been an easy process, but it has been very meaningful. Yeah.
So how far along are you in the writing process, actually?
So I have a rough draft introductory written, as well as some early chapters, but what I found is I would speak with somebody, a loved one of one of the individuals. I would start writing, and then I would hear from somebody else and realize there's way more depth to this person than I've got written, and so I'd end up having to redo the entire chapter. So where I'm at right now is really a lot of interviews, a lot of note-taking, a lot of listening, and a lot of patience. I'm trying to give people the opportunity to speak with me, to share their memories, their stories, their recollection of each of the individuals, and then I'll go back and form the chapters.
And so, that what you just described about, getting people to open up to you, like, how have you, work through that process with them? I mean, how do you go about doing that, I guess?
Yeah, so it is a really sensitive subject. And, I found that once I'm open about what my intentions are, this isn't like, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to seek answers or justice or anything about the situation. I just really want to hear the good about each of these individuals. And I find that once that's explained, it can be somewhat therapeutic, even after all these years, to be asked to remember the good, to share the fun memories. There's a lot of laughing, there's a lot of crying, there's a lot of emotion involved. It can get really heavy. There's some anger, there's a lot of emotion. But I do find that people are excited to share the good parts about their loved one's story, remembering who they were. It's very freeing to be able to talk about it again.
Do you call this book, is it a tribute?
I'm calling it a remembrance. I really want it to be focused on remembering each individual, giving their lives, the memory of their lives, meaning and positivity,
So what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, so being local to Auburn, hearing about these tragedies as they were occurring, obviously brought a lot of emotion. But then there was a documentary made called Everyone Counts on YouTube. And they really, just hearing all 10 of these deaths discussed in one documentary kind of deepened those feelings. So initially I had this sense of justice, we got to figure this out. We need answers,
Right.
And And then I started working at this new job, and my coworker happens to be a sister of one of the individuals in the documentary. So as her and I started talking, I felt like I was getting to know her brother more and more. And it started these questions of like, what if this was my brother? What if this was my friend? I grew up walking around these canals. I grew up walking around these train tracks. That was our shortcuts. All the local Auburn kids have walked these canals and train tracks. So it really wasn't these it was very personal. It was scary.
Right. You had that personal connection by meeting your coworker's brother or your coworker, and then having that story, and then on top of that, you're sort of seeing your world that you knew kind of colored in a different way.
Yeah. And so initially it was like I said, it was this kind of sense of justice. We got to figure this out. We got to, we got to figure this out. We need answers, right? Mm-hmm. So I initially started looking into making a new documentary. The Everyone Counts documentary, they did a lot. It was, it was good for what it was, but there was a lot of sort of focus on maybe the police or, getting answers to why certain things weren't done a certain way. Things weren't investigated, this and that. And then, after talking to several people that really just were like hands off, I don't really want to mess with that.
Yeah.
And again, continuing conversations with my coworker, I started to feel like the documentary didn't focus enough on the people, on the individuals that died. They focused so much on their death and getting answers and all of the tragedy. So I started to think we should focus on these people's lives, who they were while they were alive.
Kind of humanize them a little bit.
Yes, exactly. We do kind of live in a very numbed out society. We see these documentaries all the time about murderers and things like that. And so humanizing these people, these are our neighbors. These are our brothers and sisters and cousins and coworkers. These are our children. My children walk around this town. These things honestly are still happening, and it's scary. Yeah. So I really wanted to give these people's lives meaning and remembrance. So that's where I decided, I want to write a book about, so each chapter is going to be about one of the people, one of the individuals, and it's going to be any memory that's shared with me, anything about their personality. Were they a mother? Were they a father? Were they somebody's child? Were they outgoing? A lot of it was focused on, they were all kind of grouped into this, they were homeless addicts who ended their own lives. And that was just like almost this excuse or reason to dismiss everything. Mm-hmm. And it's just not true. A lot of them were not homeless. A lot of them were not addicts. Mm-hmm. One of them was homeless and he chose to live that way. He didn't have to be. There was, all these individuals had their own personalities. They had their own lives, mm-hmm. and they were just like me and you. These weren't random nobodies. It could have been any of us, mm-hmm. So I would really like to give these families, these loved ones, a good memory to rely on, focus on their life rather than their death. And
kind of put that out to people as well. I mean, it's a tribute for families, but are you also trying to, get it out to a more broader audience that these people were, who these people were?
Yeah, I don't want their memories to fade. I don't want them.
Why is that?
Because they mattered. Because, these things are still happening. Mm-hmm. It's still going on. It's still an ongoing. The documentary, and so I'm writing about the 10 individuals that were mentioned in the documentary. Mm-hmm. But since then, there have been more. Yeah. And honestly, I was reached out to. So I posted on social media a few times asking, if anybody knew these 10 individuals and feels okay to reach out to me and tell me your memories about them, anything positive about them, etc. And I got contacted like, what about this person? What about this person? And that made me realize, and look more into and do more research into the fact that these are still things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
People are still dying in the canals. People are still dying on the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not being investigated. So I will do a remembrance piece at the very end with their names.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to leave anybody out, but as far as your question goes, yes, I do want to reach everybody. I want everyone to know what's going on in our town. This is our town. We should know the truth of what's happening. And at the same time, give these individuals their right to a good memory. They were people. They were someone's loved ones, and they deserve to be remembered that way.
Mm. No, that's very, it speaks to, I think, something that's innate in our nature to, bring awareness to people, especially about the lives of people that maybe we don't necessarily know, personally, like from personal experience, but we can still create a place of empathy for them, or so. You mentioned that you started with an idea for a documentary, but you then decided to go the book route. Has there been? I want to talk about the process of that. Like, how long have you been writing?
So I've always written. I've never published anything, but even as a kid, I would write little short stories. And when I was younger, me and my brother would joke around that I was going to write songs for him and he was going to be a rock star and things like that. I've always used writing as like a therapeutic route. I write a lot. I have journals all over my house and I write, but this was the first time I felt this, like, I was very drawn to do something about this. And I feel very passionate about it. And the more conversations I've had with these, the loved ones of the individuals, the more passionate I get. The more I feel like they deserve to have a good memory, something good to lean back on. I hats off to the people that made the documentary. It was brave. It was scary. Yeah. There's a lot of people that I've spoken to that don't even live here anymore because of situations that were unfolding, and this is all things that I've heard. But it is scary. It's a scary situation. And so
it's a brave situation. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's dealing with something like as sensitive as this type of subject matter. I mean, you were saying earlier about how we kind of live in a society that has been desensitized to a point, and I feel like something that's stirring within you to tell this story, yes, is a show of bravery as well, similar to the people who made the documentary. Right. So, how do you go about as a writer? I mean, have you published anything before? I
have not. No.
You've not. No. So there's that added degree of bravery here too. How are you harnessing that? Like, how are you using that? Because you must be not afraid, but there must be some fear there of putting this out there, putting yourself out there.
I have actually gotten several people that have said, "Be careful. Be careful with this." I don't feel. Maybe if I were doing a documentary accusing, or writing a book accusing, somebody of something, we have a serial killer, or, the police are involved, or whatever whatever there may be. But the fact that this is I really just want it to be focused on each of the individuals and giving their lives meaning. It doesn't feel scary to me. I'd say the scariest part is reaching out to people. You don't know, this is not an easy topic to discuss. And so luckily, because I have my coworker to kind of fall back on, I do tend to ask her, like, how would you feel if you didn't know me and I reached out to you and asked you all these questions about your brother? I'm a complete stranger, so it's pretty humbling that these families and loved ones are willing to talk to me, somebody that they do not know, about their, loved one, and give me all of these personal memories and, trust me with that. So I don't feel scared to write it. I definitely feel passionate. I definitely feel inspired. I understand the fear. I understand why there's the warnings.
No.
But this isn't about that for me. It's about the individuals and who they were, and that they, a lot of them didn't get the memorials or the closure that I think their family would have wanted for them. So I think that this at least can give them that a little bit, if anything.
Have you thought much about, after the book is written, what comes next? Like
No.
the impact it would have on people, or what you're hoping that it will have on people?
So I hope that it brings awareness. I hope that everybody watches the Everyone Counts documentary. I think regardless of what route they took with it, I think that it has a lot of information that everybody in this town should know. I think that everybody should watch it. I hope that it brings awareness, and I hope that it inspires, if anybody knows anything, I hope it inspires them to come forward. If there was justice, then that would be amazing.
That was going to be my follow-up question, is do you feel that this is maybe an attempt at closure for the families in some way, by promoting their lives and focusing on who they were as people and humanizing them?
That's definitely my hope. I'm a very empathetic person, so I naturally just put myself in I'm talking to this mother on the phone who lost her son, and I'm thinking about my own child. I'm thinking about what this would feel like if I were in her shoes and things like that. So when I am writing, I'm thinking how would this affect me if I were, the mom, the sister, the brother of this person? I feel strongly that it would mean a lot to me to know that somebody cared enough to care, to hear about who these people were, not the stigma of they were homeless, they were an addict, they didn't matter. They did matter, and I think that it's important. Maybe not closure, but it's something.
Let me ask you something. If somebody watching this wanted to somehow get involved or help out in any way, is there a way that they could do that? Or, I understood. Well, how far along are you in the writing process, I guess, first off?
Well, so the book is entirely made up of the voices of our community.
No.
So if you knew them, absolutely reach out. Tell me anything you feel comfortable telling me, any memories. If you knew any of the 10 individuals in the documentary, or anybody that has been a part of this tragedy that's gone on in our town with the canals and the train tracks, reach out, and I am happy to hear. As far as helping out with the overall bigger picture, if you know anything, say something. It's definitely scary, and I get that, but if you know something, say something. The families deserve answers. So
something that has been somewhat of a message in your life has been, you outside of what you're doing here, you also are involved with various organizations, such as you work on the Out of the Darkness event that goes on here every year. And something that is a part of that is the Talk Saves Lives campaign. And I think that with the book, you're sort of encouraging that, maybe in a different capacity.
Well, in a similar capacity, because they were deemed suicides, whether that's true or not. They were deemed that, and so it doesn't matter what it does matter. I don't want to say that. It absolutely matters what happened, but my purpose, you know, is to get people talking. Yes. If you know something, say something. It's definitely, yeah, it's definitely scary. You know, it's something that, even like I said, I've been warned about. Be careful, you know.
How are you going about getting people to talk to you that maybe are apprehensive about doing it?
Well, and I think that with the way that my writing is, what I'm writing about is a lot less scary, because it is really just focused on the individual and who they were.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that everybody that I've spoken to has gone into further detail about the cases. And I do let them know I'm happy to listen, absolutely happy to listen. But the book that I'm writing, the remembrance piece, is none of that will be included. It's going to fully be about the individuals, their lives. So I think that lessens the scariness of talking to me about it, especially because I'm a total stranger. They don't know me. But I think that if more does come from it, if more people start to watch the documentary because of this book, then great. If it gets things moving and things happening, then amazing. You know, it is.
So I want to ask you about when you're doing the actual interview itself of a person, when you're actually talking to them, and how that like goes essentially. Because I would imagine that you get instances where people are, you know, going on about like kind of a wide variety of different things. And do you have to, as the author of the book, do you have to like hone in to like certain things, or, you know, are people just willing to like just give you everything that you need, I guess, you know?
Yeah. So you know, I'm pretty good at like redirecting, but
Yeah.
I don't in this situation. I let them talk. They can vent, they can cry, they can yell. I had one lady get a little bit mad at me,
Wow.
you know, and not at me, but, you know, towards
the situation.
Yeah. And that's okay. You know,
Mm-hmm.
her son was involved in something horribly tragic. And if I need to be her, you know, sound wall, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just take out, like, all while I'm talking, I'm writing notes, you know, and all of my notes, I'm just taking out little things that they've said, about the individual. So it can be hard. You know, I'm not a journalist, but like the journalist within me is like, oh, we could, you know, we could start investigating this, you know.
So
but
you're sitting there like writing notes the whole time and not recording them, though.
I did record one, which I thought would make it. I asked her, obviously, you know, do you mind if I record this? And she was absolutely happy to do it. But it ended up being just like too much, you know, because we ended up being on the phone for like an hour.
Oh, wow.
So it was just this like massive amount of, you know, conversation to kind of go through. So I do like, either way, it really works. But I do like just kind of writing notes, because there is so much. People do. It always starts out sort of slow. Like, oh, you know, I always open with, this is my intention. This is who I am. This is what I'm hoping to do. You know, this is what my plan is. Would you mind sharing with me about your son, your friend? And then the floodgates open, you know, and that to me is like, I feel honored. I feel honored that people are, you know, able to open up to me and share those intimate memories. I think my favorite is absolutely when I'm talking to, you know, someone's mom who's sharing this beautiful memory of when they were a child and doing this or that, and you can just hear the smile in their voice, because I'm almost always on the phone with them. But you just hear this smile, you know, they're just remembering this beautiful moment that they got to share. And I really think that I don't care how long it's been, you know, it can be some kind of therapeutic to be able to talk about that, be able to remember the good. And that's what I want from this book. I want it to be a happy memory, you know.
Do you think the fact that you're not a journalist, or that you don't come from a journalist background is helpful in getting people to talk to you?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did do a lot of research initially. I was a little nervous because I wasn't hearing from anybody.
Mm.
And so I just really started researching all of these people online and came across a lot of news articles. And I pulled a quote from one of the news articles. And when I was talking to, it was a quote from one of the individual's mothers. And I let her know, oh, yeah, I got this quote from this newspaper.
Mm.
And she was like, oh, no, you don't use anything from that newspaper. So it was like, she obviously had some like conflict with that journalist, and that's, understandable.
Right.
But I did let her know what the quote was, and she was like, oh, that's fine. That's absolutely true, which then led into more detail to where the quote kind of came from, which was beautiful. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, besides like what you've already, because it sounded like when you lived through this, when it actually was happening in Auburn. And
yeah, we would hear, everybody would hear about these different, not all of them were published. Not all of them were on the news. Not all of them were in the newspapers. But
so I was going to ask about researching it. Like, did you go about, like, did you do a deep dive into it, or did you just kind of like rely solely on the people telling what, and your interview subjects and what they were telling you, or a mixture of both?
A mixture of both. I definitely got more detail about the individuals from the interviews. But I did do a deep dive. I even got on like Ancestry.com to like find,
Wow.
Relatives.
Yeah.
Were they, did they have siblings, this and that. But no, there were obituaries, there were news articles, there were all kinds of different quotes and things from, on the obituary websites. You can like write memorial pieces and things like that. So there was a lot to go off of, but I definitely wanted that more personalized. I want those memories. I want those personal stories of, my kid used to put all the couch cushions together and jump into a pile of blankets and things like that. That's the kind of, I really want to humanize them. I want people to understand these were your friends, your neighbors. They lived here in our town, and this is not, this doesn't get to be some stigma of they were homeless addicts that ended their own life, case closed. It's just not.
You mentioned earlier about how you are an empathetic person, and I wanted to ask was there a particular moment throughout the course of the process so far, because it's still ongoing, was there a particular moment where you felt, or something just moved you?
Yeah, I think speaking with my coworker initially was probably the biggest moving, because I know her now. I've gotten to know her. I've gotten to do things for her. I have a Cricut, the like sticker machine. So I do like a lot of shirts and stickers and little crafty things like that. And I got to make her some like memorial shirts for her brother. And I made one for her dad and her mom. And they're in the documentary. So I almost felt like I kind of knew them already. And then I got to like meet her in real life. So I think I actually started working with her right around the memorial or the anniversary of his death. So it was like all in one, it was very like, oh my gosh, I can't believe
the timing is like,
I can't believe this happened. Oh my gosh, that was your brother. And then I found out I actually went to school with him and I just didn't know him. Like there was just all this very coincidental, but it's Auburn. It's a small town, so that was definitely really moving. But I will say, talking to the moms, that's been the hardest. I have 5 kids, so imagining, I can't help but just like put myself in that place, like, oh my gosh, my kid walks around Auburn. My kid goes to the skate park that's right by the train tracks. All these things run through your mind, and it's just like, it's scary.
It is. I, as a father myself, I completely agree and understand. I wanted to say, I appreciate the bravery that you are, that you and the people that are involved with the project also that are talking to you are showing here and keeping this story alive. And thank you so much for being a part of our first show and coming here and talking to us today about this. Is there anything in closing that you would want to say to the audience, just about the project or,
Yeah, so I am writing this memorial piece on the 10 individuals that died on the canals and the train tracks. If you knew any of them and you feel comfortable to reach out to me, you can contact me at my email address. It's hannahwoodsford12@gmail.com, and I would be happy to hear from you. I would be happy to call, meet up, whatever you're most comfortable with. Please reach out.
Well, I wanted to go ahead and thank our guests today for coming down and talking to us, and I also wanted to go ahead and thank our audience for tuning in. Like I said before, this Work in Progress is a show where we talk to local artists that you may not have heard of before. So if you or anybody you know fits that bill, please feel free to reach out. My email address is boomstick.ow@gmail.com. It should be at the bottom of the screen right there. And yes, we look forward to seeing you guys again on the next episode. So please tune in. Thank you very much.